Hi there, this is Paul, aka Internet, for iPoker VIP Coaching. I'm very excited to be producing videos for the site from here on out, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm gonna give you a quick introduction of who I am. I'm a mid-stakes player at OnGame. In case you don't know, OnGame is the probably third biggest Euro site right after iPoker and Party Poker. Maybe it's ahead of Party Poker right now. I'm not totally sure. And I play like 2-4, 3-6, 5-10, and sometimes higher there. What qualifies me as a coach, in my opinion, is that I have one of the biggest long-term win rates in those games. And that's not including heads up. You know, if you just look at heads up win rates, there could be some really high win rates if you only play against weak players. But my 5-max or slash 6-max record has been really good, just shy of 10 big blinds per 100 over a very large sample size. So, because of that, I think I might be able to improve the game of other people. You can also find me at 2plus2. I assume a lot of you guys are on 2plus2, and I post there as internet. Maybe you've seen me. Maybe, yeah, you want to talk to me, then send me a message or look at my post or something. Um, all right. Then let's talk about what the first video is gonna be. I'm gonna be playing 2-4 Heads Up on two tables, and it's gonna be a live commentary, which means I'm talking about the hands as I'm playing. So usually that could be kind of boring if there's not a big hand coming up, but I promise you, with me, it won't be boring. There'll be plenty of hands to talk about. I want to talk about something quick before we start the video. I want you guys to think about how you watch a video. Like, something you should not be doing is turn on your TV, chat on MSN, and browse the funny pictures thread while you're watching a coaching video. That is absolutely not the way you should do it. What you should be doing is, whenever I get dealt whole cards and whenever I have a decision, you should be the one making the decision for me. Of course, that's kind of easy to say, and sometimes there's going to be too many hands, but whenever, before I have the option to make a bet, you should be there thinking, should I bet, should I not bet? And just, like, think what you would do in that situation. And granted, for like 90%, maybe 95% of situations, your decision is going to be equal to my decision. That's just how poker is. But there's going to be like 5%, maybe 5%, I don't know, of spots where your play will be different from my play. And those are the spots which like separate good players and really good players. And yeah, if you find such a situation, you should be thinking like, why is he doing this different? Like, am I making a mistake? Is he making a mistake? Maybe the plays are pretty equal. Maybe there's just he has a different game plan, but that's where you have to start thinking. And maybe if you watch enough videos, you'll start to see a pattern that, you know, all these guys are doing this, which I'm not doing. So you're gonna find something to reconsider. One last thing before we get started is, if you want to comment on the video, please use this format, which is minute minute, second second, and then hand, like whole card, and then a comment. For example, if there was something going on with a king 5 suited, you should write down like minute 5, second 11, and then your question or comment, or you know, whatever you want to talk about. That just like helps keeping the comments a bit more organized and a bit more easy for me to spot where questions are. Alright, so much for the introduction. Let's hop right into the action. Hello everyone, this is Internet playing some 2-4 Heads Up, no limit action. I'm playing against a regular I know from higher stakes. He plays like 3-6, 5-10 with me. And I asked him to play some heads up, and we decided to hop onto 2-4 tables. We've played heads up to like start tables or when tables break before, so I know a little bit how he plays. And yeah, he's quite the good player. He's a solid regular. I think he's kind of tight passive on the later streets, so when he like jams the river, I usually give him credit for a good hand. But other than that, I don't really have any strong reads. And heads up, I usually play without a HUD. Cause except for like 3-bet number, there's not really anything worth looking at. So I turn off my HUD for heads up tables usually and just like feel the game, feel the flow. Okay, so far he's been min raising his buttons, and I've been making a 2.5x. My strategy against min raises is gonna be a lot of calling pre-flop in the big blind because you get such a good price that like even very weak hands like 7-4 suited or King 6 offsuit are like good enough to call usually. So you'll see me calling light out of position against the min raise, and also the min raise has or leaves very deep stacks behind. If you 3-bet, like if he makes it 8, I make it 30, about 4 times his min raise. There's very deep stacks behind, so he can call 3-bets very wide and take his positional advantage into a 3-bet pot, and that's not something that's good for you. So I'm not going to 3-bet much out of position. I'm obviously going to 3-bet my good hands and some bluffs, but I'm not going to 3-bet like 10-8 suited because there's not really a reason to. It's good enough to call, so and it's not a value 3-bet, so why would I 3-bet it? Not saying it's bad to 3-bet that, but I just like calling more. Alright, so much about pre-flop strategies. Let's see what's actually happening. So 6-4 offsuit, I could call to min raise. I won't, but it's reasonable. So I flop like 10-8 undercards, which is never good, but I do have overcards to second pair, so I decided to check raise it. Like if he has a second pair, I have 6 outs against that, and the backdoor flush draw, a little bit of backdoor straight draw, so that's a solid check raising hand in my opinion. And since he's min raising his buttons, so far he's been not folding a button, so he's probably on 100% pre-flop. So like can never be bad to check raise a flop unless he's like crazy at playing back against check raises. Here with the 5 deuce, I do have a flush draw, but it's a really bad flush draw, so I like to just check it back and play a small pot in case I hit my flush. Like, I mean, if I hit a flush, it's basically like top pair. It can't really beat any value bets. It's just a bluff catcher. And when you have a hand that's likely to become a bluff catcher, you want to keep the pot small. So I turn a pair. It's not a pair I can value bet. So I think I just check back here. What happened on the right? I think I check called a small bet. Yeah. What should be self-explanatory. When he bets this flop, again, like I said, pre-flop he has 100% range. On the right hand, I just have to call flop against a small bet, and here he's not folding ace high on the river, so I can't bluff. And my bottom pair checks down and wins a pot. He called king 9 off out of position, seems pretty standard. See what he had on the right table. So he had 7-3 offsuit. That confirms that he's opening 100%. Pretty much. I know that as a fact now. And then he c-bets flop small, which is fine, but I certainly cannot fold this flop like ever. If I have queen high or better, I just should never fold the flop. The 6-4, again, I could call. It's kind of a really bad hand though. Makes terrible pairs. So I could fold a 3-bet. I'm just gonna fold. Don't want to 3-bet too much crap. Okay, 8-9 jack. The jack is when he c-bets the flop, the jack would be a really bad card because like jack 10, queen 10, 10-7, all those hands hit the jack, or like jack 7, there's so many jack X and straights he could have, but when he checks back the flop, he like doesn't have a straight ever. So check raising makes sense, but I don't think he reps anything here except for a jack that decided not to c-bet, like jack 3, jack 8, or just a random jack that checked behind. So I'm actually really comfortable calling turn, and should he bet river, again he represents like any jack that decided not to c-bet, or just some sort of delight bluff. And well, in the introduction I said I don't expect him to bluff rivers. So I think I should fold here, but I'm just going to look him up this time. I really want to see if he has it or not. I'm curious, and I don't really mind to lose here against the jack. because then I know he's gonna stop. Oh no, I want to say that if I do call him here and he sees this and he has a jack, he's gonna see like, oh, what a crazy calling monkey, and he's not gonna bluff. So I can like solidify my read that he's not bluffing on the river for once because he didn't bluff, and for second I called with a weak hand, so he's not gonna go ahead and bluff. However, as you saw, he was bluffing turn. He was bluffing turn and river. So, well, in that case, my call is also good, obviously. There's a lot of action for 2 tables heads up. I can barely keep up with the talking. Guess you realize that. I hope I'm not talking too much nonsense. Because the action is so quick. Okay, here the ace deuce. I could float or raise. I never fold ace high on the flop against 100% opener. Actually gonna check raise and check call, even though both look like really crazy. Yeah, like I said, he opens 100%. He c-bets a lot of hands, so like ace high is pretty good hand, and I have the backdoor nut flush draw, overcard, and like 3-5 backdoor straight draw. If the turn and river is 3 and 5, I make a straight. Well, now that the ace comes, pretty easy call down. On the right, we have a situation. I check raise turn because I don't really. He doesn't really have a straight or like top pair after he checks back flop, bets turn. So now his range is pretty much a jack X or a queen, low queen that check behind on the flop. Here I'm just gonna have to call. There's not really anything else I can do. And we chop, that's fine. I'm gonna give up, but I don't know. Could also bet pretty big and like put his jack X, queen X to a test. And as you can see here on the left, he was actually c-betting the flop with ace high himself, which is something I want to take note of, because this means he's c-betting. Well, he has the 6 of spades, which gives him some backdoorish potential, but he's c-betting ace high hands. So if I flop like top pair or middle pair, I want to be check raising that for value, because his betting range is just going to be so crazy weak. So keep that in mind. I don't usually see people c-bet all their ace highs here for good reason, because it's a pretty wet board. But he did, so yeah, keep that in mind. The 10, very bad turn card. Obviously just gonna check down, maybe call river, maybe fold river. Should be really difficult for him to bluff on this river, but he's definitely good enough player to be able to bluff here, so it's not like an easy fold if he bets on the river. He checks. Yeah, I don't see any value. He could be check raising with a flusher straight, and he could obviously check 10-8, so I don't think I can value bet here. Yeah, he does have the 9, so against that hand there certainly could have been some value, but as I said, there's just too many better hands. The 4 deuce suited, I'm just gonna go ahead 3-bet that. Well, finally break for my voice. 4 deuce flops a gut shot on a pretty good board, so that's getting c-bet. The king 6, now there's one thing happening what I mentioned earlier. If he's c-betting his ace highs here, I think I can check raise for value. Oh my god, I run so well. Let's think if there's any reason to check on the turn here. I have an open-ended straight flush draw plus a straight. That's pretty neat. No, I'm gonna check call king 6. I think that's a pretty sexy line. Well, if I check here, I think he checks down ace high. He might have like king queen, queen jack type of overcard floats, which would bet if I check. So there's some point for checking turn. Certainly makes some sense. 9 on the river. Kind of inclined to value bet the king 6, because if he has a 7 or a jack, he bets turn. So I'm only beat by like ace 6 or 9-8, but 9-8 bets turn. Like 10-8 bets turn, I would think. My kicker plays against other 6x. I do, however, rep. I don't know. My time's running out. Field's too thin. I feel like he's not calling ace high on the river. Because of that, I don't think I can value bet, but maybe I can. I shouldn't be beat too often. If I'm beat, it's by like a random 9 that decided to check turn. Like, I don't know, just 9-10, and he checks back turn, which could happen, of course. Now he bets, and now I'm bluff catching, unfortunately. I think I'm just gonna have to call here based on the way I played this hand. I'm just played it like super weak, nothing. And if he happens to have nothing, he needs to bet river. So, I think I just sort of have to call, but he shows up with a 10-8, so he did have all the 9x and 10-8s in his range apparently. Decided to not bet turn with those gut shots and then open-ended straight draws, which is okay. I don't think he should bet the turn every time, but I would have expected him to, which is why I was considering betting river myself in the first place. Ace high on the left, just checking down. There's not really any point in bluffing with it. Hope we're good. 3-betting for deuce worked out well last time, so let's do it again. Obviously, that's not a type of reasoning you should use. Yeah, as you can tell, I've not been 3-betting much at all, and he hasn't been either. So we've mostly been just folding to raises or playing single raised pots. The king jack, I think it's a 3-bet for value. Maybe it's not. He hasn't 4-bet a single time, so that makes me more happy to 3-bet. Because the last thing you want to happen when you have king jack is catch a 4-bet. That's just awkward to play. Like, what you gonna do? Very, very good flop for us. Certainly gonna commit a lot of money to this. Very bad turn. Probably worse turn. I don't know if I can value bet turn. No idea. I think I should be able to, but I think he's gonna have a lot of ace highs that call on the flop. Like certainly ace 4, ace 5, ace deuce, ace 3. So he's gonna have all those. But then of course he's gonna have all the pocket pairs, all the worst jack X. So I think I do have value on the turn, but now that sucks. I cannot jam river for value. That would be kinda ultra thin. So I have to check. And if he decides to bet here, well, it's certainly one of the spots where he doesn't represent a bluff at all. Like, what hand would he be bluffing with that, like, calls flop, calls turn? Like, king, queen of spades, floats flop with 2 overcards, turns, not flush draw, that type of hand, but very unlikely as it would jam on the turn. So, in order for him to be bluffing here, he'd have to have pocket 4s, pocket 5s, and jam with those. And it would certainly be a very good play of him to do that. But I don't think he does. But I might be wrong. So I'm gonna check fold and put him on ace X, basically. Maybe even the nuts. Like, he could have had a set or quads or a straight with 4-5. Oh, what did he show down on the left hand? He had split. Okay. Well, that was pretty standard, I think. Ace queen. I think it has enough equity to just like bet it, even though he's not really folding a better hand. He might be folding an offsuit 8. We haven't seen any 4-bets. I'm just gonna make my first 4-bet where there's a somewhat big pot on the right. What's my sizing? I want to make it about 3 times, so 80. 80's cool. So he calls turn, and I'm pretty much never good on the river, but at the same time, I'm gonna have so many worse hands than ace high, so I'm not gonna bluff with this particular hand. If I wanted to bluff, I'd take a weaker hand like jack high or 10 high, or even worse than that. But since I'm gonna have so many single spade hands that could potentially have nothing on the river, I'm not gonna be bluffing with my ace high. Ace 8. Here again, backdoor nut flush draw, 2 overcards against 100% opening range is not gonna fold. So I check call flop. This turn card, if he bets, is somewhat interesting situation because he's gonna be betting very, very wide here. Like a flopped flush draw, a turned flush draw, any of the straight draws like 5-3, ace-3, ace-5, 10-8, 10-6, 6-8. I mean, there's so many possibilities on how I have the best hand, and he's just betting a draw. However, he does bet pretty big, so that certainly is somewhat of an annoying spot for me. If he bets small, I would certainly call again, hoping that my ace high somehow wins that showdown. He bets so big, which makes it very difficult for me, so I'm gonna fold and would only call if I had a pair. On the right, I bet the turn with my 6. It's mostly protection bet. I don't expect him to call with many worse hands. But I never expect him to raise on the turn. Pocket 9s, 9-6 might raise, but not very likely. Once he calls turn, I think I'm like behind 60-70% of the time. So I'm just gonna check river. If he decides to bet river though, actually my hand strength goes up because he's not gonna value bet river with like 6-8. So if he was gonna bet river, I would put him on a lot of turn straight draws, such the one as he had. So I might actually check call river, even though if he checks behind river, I would usually lose. He checked back his queen jack, which is not bad, but certainly solidifies my read that he's not bluffing river. It's like, I mean, you'll see a lot of opponents bet his queen jack on the river there, like every time. They're just gonna bet it. Out kicked by 1. Jesus. And now I'm getting really loose here, calling 8-4 offsuit. Turn a straight. Oh, well, close to it. Obviously bluffing on the turn with a straight draw and like no showdown value whatsoever. He decides to go ahead and raise. Very peculiar. Well, he represents the obvious turn 2 pair, 9-7, 9-6, and pocket 9s. I think he'd c-bet pocket 9s and 9-7, so he doesn't really represent anything. And then he represents some random. I don't have any time left. He represents the random turn back, check back straight draw, like check back 10-8, 8-5, which I guess he could do occasionally. And I don't expect him to bluff raise turn, and I don't have any showdown value, so I can't call turn. I would have to 3-bet turn, and then he might also be raising the turn with like a nut flush draw or a combo draw, and then jam over my 3-bet, and then even though he was bluffing my flop at my turn, 3-bet wouldn't win, so just give it up, not feeling great about it. He check raises here. It's like his first check raise or so. So I'm feeling really bad about it, but obviously gonna call and evaluate river. 10-9, pay attention. 10-9 has a double gut shot, right? I just want you to see that. I could bet, I could check raise. I think I like checking more than betting, but it's whatever. He checks here. Would he do this with a 10? I think he would sometimes, but I think just gotta bet here anyway. Hoping he has a 9 or some sort of pocket pair or some ace high, or if he has like king jack or king queen or just any overcard with a gut shot or just undercard gut shot 8-6 or something, I don't want to give him a free card. So he goes ahead and bets, and now I'm gonna spring my trap. Oh, don't let the timer run out. Yeah, basically all options are valid on the turn. You're like betting small, betting big, check raising. Even check calling turn here is not ridiculous. It's obviously kind of stupid because you might have jack high and win the river at showdown, but you have so much equity that even check calling can't be terrible. Ace 8, we had that before. Just gonna call that. Hope to spike an ace. Usually spiking the ace is very good because at least unexperienced heads-up players tend to bluff when the ace comes on the turn and you're gonna have it, so that's like easy call down. Um, I don't think he does that. He's smarter. We've seen him check behind that queen jack hand where he wouldn't have represented much, so he knows what his range is. So if I turn an ace against him, I'm still very happy, but I'm not as happy as I would be against, someone else. He checks back turn. So the question is, do we bluff on the river or not? I think I don't have to bluff. I think I have the best hand often enough to show down. He might have some sort of 3 or deuce or 5 that folds, but it's like somewhat unlikely. He happened to have a 5 and not betted on the turn, not betted on the river. It's kind of tight from his side, but I guess I don't mind it. Oh, 10-9 calls, not happy or anything, it's just a call. Oh, king queen. Okay. He doesn't seem to be too happy about 3-betting pre-flop. Like, I've been raising every button pretty much. So if he has king queen, he should probably be 3-betting at 100 big blind stack size. Definitely somewhat peculiar. And also he check called flop when he had top pair, second kicker. He could have check raised flop for value, obviously. So I'm kind of getting the feeling that he's very tight passive pre-flop and flop and like every street. Bet size, bet size, bet size. I think the size. My river betting range is gonna be obviously 6x sometimes, but not very often. Most of my river betting range will be weak pairs and like very thin value bets, but like under pairs and ace jack high, if that makes sense. No, I don't think that makes sense, but yeah, my river betting range is gonna be mostly thin value, so I want to have a small bet size. 7-5. I'm just gonna check back one time and then bluff on the later street if I get the opportunity to. Basically played exactly like the 6x I just had. On this turn, a bet really represents nothing. Unless I'm value betting ace high, which I wouldn't be, so. River, still same problem. If I bet river, I represent no value hand, like except ace high, but who value bets ace high? Usually I get pocket eights in, but he's been kind of tight with the 3-bets. I'm still going to. I think if he has ace high, he's gonna call, so there's no point in betting. I'm just gonna lose or like chop anyway. Well, basically I would only be bluffing him off of half the pot, and that gives myself worse odds on a bluff. And he had ace high, so, well, that's results oriented, but he would have called. Looks like his connection is down. No, he was just timing purposely. Never forget to reload before you're all in on OnGame. So I just did that. He jams. I'm not happy now, but obviously I'm calling. He's gonna have the double aces, the pocket rockets. I think he was genuinely disconnected there or timing on some other table. I don't think he would tank aces just to make it look like something else. Yeah, I guess a HUD would have been useful in that situation pre-flop if I get in pocket eights or not. If his 3-bet is 20% or more, I'm always 4-betting pocket eights at 100 big blinds. If his 3-bet percentage was like 10 or 15%, I would have just called. Um, yeah, so that's that. But whatever. Don't feel bad about that. He checks this flop after 3-betting pre-flop, and this is usually a check fold or a check call from a medium strength hand. No. And when he's either check folding or check calling with a medium strength hand, and I can get his range defined with one bet, I want to bet very small, and then attack on the later streets when I know what his range looks like. Aces. Well, I don't think my 4-bet is gonna be perceived as weak here, but I do certainly 4-bet. That's a little bit of a tough spot with the King Jack. Jamming is not very appealing because I don't think he calls with a hand worse than a jack. Huh. Time's running out. Can't really explain this in depth, but if I was to jam here, he would only call if he has a jack or a flush, and maybe sometimes if he has like pocket kings or queens or like I don't know whatever hero call he's gonna make. So I don't think there's value in jamming. So I think my only valuable bet size would be half pot, but it's kind of odd now to bet small here because it doesn't look like a bluff. But you know, I could obviously bluff like that, so that'd be fine. 22. Hope you guys all pay very close attention to the spot on the left, because last time, or at least some other time, he bet 40 on the turn. Now he's betting less, so he's not strong, most likely, and I think I can call. Because if he had a deuce or ace-jack, he might have bet 40 again. So I think he's gonna have 10-8, queen 10, queen 8, 8, 7, you know, all the good stuff. When he bets this turn, that ace high is good enough plenty, and my odds are also plenty when he bets kind of a small size. I think I'm gonna check raise both. Kind of feel like it. That's 50. So he betting 50. Looks a lot like a weak jack on call though. I just don't see why he's betting so small. It's a strong jack. Well, it's kind of strange why he'd bet this sizing plan, like small turn size and small river size with a good jack. If he wants to induce a bluff raise, his hand is not really strong enough, or like induce a raise from a worse value hand. And if he wants to go for maximum value, he could bet bigger. So I don't really understand his sizing with that hand there. Like if he has quads, I say that's fine, or if he has like jack 3, that's fine. But I think king jack can get more value than that. But whatever. I think I need to 3-bet more, right? I haven't been 3-betting at all. So let's just do that. Deuces, no point in 3-betting really. It's just, you know, small pot hand. So he checks behind on the flop, which means I'm good on the flop 100%. He's never checking back pocket 3s or quads, I would assume. So on the turn, I'm also good, unless he has a jack, which is possible, but not very likely. So I'm just going to value bet turn and expect him to call with ace high, and maybe even like queen high or something. And if he folds, you know, I don't mind, because he would have had at least, oh, what is that? 6 plus 3 split outs? 6 outs plus 3 split outs. And the king also, so like 7 and some split outs. So yeah, I don't mind if he folds either. That's fine with me. We're playing 150 blinds now, approximately. And if the stacks get deeper, I'm gonna increase my button raise size, because it's just more difficult for the blind to deal with it. Like if I make it bigger, what's he gonna do? If he 3-bets, I can still call because we're deeper. and you know, calling is less attractive when the odds are worse. Here he goes for that check back flop bet line again. Huh. Doesn't seem bluffy really. I kinda don't want to fold. That sucks. I don't know. Ace 4 on the right, I decided to check turn to check raise for thin value, and it seems to work out perfectly as he bet small, which looks a lot like a 5 or a 9, or just some random bluff. So I think my hand is good, and well, pretty much always, so just gonna value raise him pretty big, and then bet river if he calls. Now we said we want to raise to 12 on the deep table, slightly deep table. It comes in with the just 3 times a 3-bet, which is of course fine. Man, I have such a bad feeling about stacking off preflop here, but I can't see anything else. I mean, of course, I could just call his 3-bet, but I do want to 4-bet some hands, right? Unless he's never 3-betting anything, but he's been 3-betting some amount. Pocket 7's best hand. Just value bet. He calls the 4-bet, that's ace queen or king queen, and all of those just crush the flop, so I'm screwed. I'm gonna check back and then see what happens. Six, four, four, deuce. No, my hand should be good here. Should be able to make a big value bet. Just gonna bet 150. Ugh. This is so not a bluff. There's no way he bets 150 on a bluff. No way. He's just gonna have a queen. Damn, hate that hand. If he bets 80 or so on the turn, I would have to call. One, of course, I have a gut shot. Secondly, he could be value betting worse, or it could be bluffing with whatever. Yeah, on the left here, don't make the mistake of raising, because that's too thin. There's like flushes and straights, and he could have all those, and you don't want to raise turn, even though you have 2 pair. I'm 6-7, he's gonna have ace high, which hit the river very often. And unless I expect him to like check back, air, and then bluff on the ace, I can't really call. I could raise if he bets river. So many strange hands going on now. He checks river here. I think I have to showdown, but he's gonna have a low heart or like a 10 very often. I can't bluff this, can I? K9, no, that's great. I think he should have bluffed that. Maybe not. See, bets. Yeah, I can raise, or I can put him on some random check back, air, bluff, river, ace, which I don't think he has, but maybe. Notice I'm going back to 10 bucks, 2.5 blinds once the stacks are, well, not short, but not deep anymore. Ace 9. I oftentimes value 3-bet, sometimes I don't. Not sure. Ace 3. It's kind of a funny spot because I would be betting the turn with a lot of my air, because like almost every hand has a flush draw or a gut shot on the turn. So like, what hands could I have that are bluffing on the river? It's really difficult. Like Queen 8 or something without a flush draw. So I think I can bet river with ace high as a bluff. I think that makes sense, and I just overbet because that's how I roll. No, it's because his range never has the strong hand, so if I had a strong hand I could overbet for value, and I can also overbet bluff. Ace Queen. Ace Queen is approximately as strong as pocket eights for preflop all in. However, Ace Queen plays a lot better when you call, so I'm inclined to call here. He called this flop. Well, I have 3 outs to the 9. Nothing else really, so I'm not gonna bluff. I'm gonna bluff this river though. I think it's kind of hot. Here I'm gonna do the same bet sizing trick I did in the King Jack hand earlier. Basically, forcing him to define his hand for a very little amount. And the only way he can counter this is by check raising flops. But people don't like 3-bet check raise at a high frequency. So I really like that small bet size, and in that case he just folded, which, you know, I had ace queen, probably the best hand when he folded. But if I can get him to fold to small bets, that's obviously ridiculously profitable, as I can just take any 2 cards and like get 1 to a million on a bluff and he folds, so I profit. Pocket sixes, I think this is a value raise because he's been c-betting so much and my hand is just good so often that I think it's just clear value. Jack 9 to the min bet, like half pod bet after min raising, that's so small. I'm just gonna min raise and be funny. No particular reason except for it's funny and I don't want to fold. Basically, I would have odds to call, but it's kind of iffy to call Jack high. So I min raise instead and see what happens. Pocket sixes. Now this is a very, very good turn card because if he has ace high, you now turn to gut shot, and I cover that gut shot by making a higher straight if the 4 comes. And covering opponent's outs is very, very, very good. And I obviously expect him to call ace high on the turn. Yeah, I just think I have a pretty good bet on the turn here. 6-4, ace 4, and any 7 beat me. 6-4 is unlikely. Ace 4, that's very possible, yeah. And then any 7, of course. We're not too worried about a 7. Yeah, river, I can't value bet, so I check, and oops, I expect him to check back his ace high. And if he bets river, he represents, well, ace 4, a 5, king 7, ace 7, and the super nuts. Can he full house? He's gonna have queen 7. Okay, that's fine, yeah. He thought about betting river, but ended up not doing it, which, yeah, like I said, king 7, maybe ace 7 is where his value cutoff is. So I think I have a good grasp on that. Now you might be saying, why the hell do you check raise pocket sixes and then bet turn and he has a 7, you lose so much money? Well, consider what happens if I check call flop. He's also gonna bet turn, bet river, most likely with his queen 7, and I'm gonna have to pay off approximately the same amount either way. So I don't really mind being up against 7x that way. I'm essentially, you can call it a cooler if he has 7x, because I lose like 2 to 3 bets in either way. But if he has like a worse pair, or like ace high or a draw, then check raising for value is much better. Flopping gut shots. This is a double gut shot actually. Pay attention, guys. I used to always miss my double gut shots, that's why I'm like emphasizing this. But this hand has 8 straight outs plus an overcard. Actually gonna raise it. Like, just because it has so much equity. and if he like calls, I think I have like 40%, which is fine. And if he folds overcards like 10-8, if he folds 10-8, I'm okay with that because, you know, I don't want to get barreled or have him hit his hand. Interesting. Huh. I think I should value bet. What in the world is he doing with his turn raising? That's just so weird. I don't understand. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, does he really check back a flush? Okay, I win, so that's kind of fortunate. Oh, he's been doing this check back raise turn a lot, so I was getting kind of suspicious, and I of course did have a pair plus gut shot in case he has a set. My gut shot certainly helps a bit. Oh, come on. So he had an open and a straight draw. Well, that's a fine hand to raise on the turn, I think. Like, he's gonna have some turn two pairs, 6-2, 6-4, pocket sixes, maybe. Pretty much that's all he reps. Maybe a check back flush, but like, who checks back flushes? Seriously. So his turn value range is gonna be very, very slim. So he can't really bluff raise turn. We can only bluff raise turn with very, very few hands. But I think 7-5 is one of the few hands he can bluff raise on the turn. So I don't think his holding there is indicative of too many turn bluff raises. It's just reasonable. I don't think it's bad or anything. Check raises here. It's very awkward to play. Getting it in on the flop is okay, but not really plus EV. Like, I mean, I'm not really ahead of his get-in range. If he has a flush draw, I'm slightly ahead. If he has ace-4, 4-4, I'm crushed. And, yeah, I don't... So, like, raising right there doesn't really make the most sense. And turn, I basically have to call now. Low flush draw, if he has ace-4 or 4-4, that helps. And, well, two pair. Some full house outs if he has a flush. So, I mean, against any hand, I'm going to have outs on the turn. So, I'm gonna have to call turn. He bets river. Obviously, I have a bluff catcher now. So what would he check raise? That doesn't have a heart, and that bets turn and bluffs river. I don't see anything really, so I'm gonna fold. Yeah, basically. Okay, we're approaching 45 minutes, so gonna wrap this one up. After the queen 10 hand, he checks back, so my queen is the best hand always, and I'm actually gonna overbet for value. Just because, like, when you have the best hand every time, you can just bet any bet size for value you want, because your opponent he always has a worse hand, so he can't only call better hands. So I could have even gone all in on the river. But he probably never calls that, so would be good for a bluff, but well, I usually don't overbet like 4 times pot or something. Alright, see you guys next time.